It's where people gather around in a room, listen for a sound, hear our favorite tune. Come together with good friends, pretty women, cold beer, know right where to get it. Heard they got it here. Well, this is my kind of church, my kind of town, my kind of people. Y'all are easy to hang around. There ain't nothing I love better. I love it so much it hurts. These are my kind of people. This is my kind of church.
Howdy, everyone. Greg Holle. Welcome to the Greg Holle Show. We're getting fired up. This is show number. I lost count. We're getting ready to rock and roll here. We got another awesome guest on tap. The only problem I feel like I'm going to run into as this continues on is where do we go from there? Because coming out the gate, we've had a lot of major league veterans like we had last week. Bo Garrett, lead guitar player from Montgomery Gentry. This week, a pretty good one. Head coach at TCU, Jim Schlossnagle, will be on here in just a minute. As we get going, guys, all of this wouldn't be possible without the help of our sponsors. And Highly GMC, the number one volume dealer for all GMC in North Texas. New used cars, trucks, or SUVs. Go see why they dominate the market. As this continues on, we get $10,000 off all remaining 2020 Sierra pickup trucks. If Buick, GMC, and Hyundai are not your thing, don't get scared. Subaru, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Mazda, Volkswagen, Audi, and Acura, all under the Highly umbrella. Give them a shout. Swing on over, see Brian, see Eric. And let's see if we can get them to take care of you. Fort Worth Cosmetic and Family Dentistry, Dr. Nikki Green Cosmetics are their specialty. Whether it's veneers, implants, Invisalign, teeth whitening, you name it, they do it. They got it. Or if you want to go in for routine cleaning, give them a holler. 817-653-8859. Visit ngreendental.com. Give them a call. Again, free consultation with Dr. Flossie, Dr. Leedy, Dr. McCulick, or Dr. Nikki Green. They've been with us since the beginning, since the Texans got going, since the Greg Holle Show got rolling. Nonetheless, what do you know? They're on board. We support those who support us. Can't speak highly enough of Dr. Green and the rest of her staff of hygienists, dentists as well. Our guest, we're going to get to it here, okay? Made a lot of, as the season's inching closer and closer here, we lucked out. We've been trying to do some stuff. We're going to do it right before the holiday. Didn't want to waste something that people are definitely going to look forward to hearing. Nonetheless, our guest here, let me give him the rundown. 7-time Mountain West Conference championships. I was fortunate to be part of 3 of them. 7-time Mountain West Coach of the Year, 5-time Mountain West Tournament champs, 2 times Conference USA champ, 2-time Big 12 regular season champs, 2 times Big 12 tournament champs. Baseball American National Coach of the Year in 2016, 5 times to the College World Series. Nonetheless, favorite team, I believe, is the 2010 team when we first went. Now it seems like the new is wearing off, the cool's wearing off. When he gets on, he will absolutely deny that because every time it's special in its own right. Really cool to see what they have going on. I'm going to have to cut off the accomplishments if you want to get anywhere with this show. Guys, I want you to sit back, enjoy the hour a week that we have to get away from God knows what's going on TV and the news and, right, wrong, and different, where you stand on it. Nonetheless, the head coach of the number 1 baseball program in all of the country, Jim Schlossnagle, I want to welcome you on. I appreciate you swinging on, taking some time out to talk a little bit.
Glad to do it, man. Fired up, excited for what you guys are doing out there, and ready to break it all down here on a pretty day in Fort Worth.
Yeah, here we go. Hey, let's cut to the chase with it. And then you got to get rolling here in a bit. So nonetheless, I got a bunch of stuff. What we get to. What we don't. Everyone wants to. I know this was something that was in the clubhouse nonstop for the 3 years that I was fortunate to play at TCU. Everyone wants to ride the coattails, right? Man, everything's good. They see something that's rolling. They want to be part of it. What is the key? What is the overall message? Give us a little bit of the insight on a day in the clubhouse at TCU of whether we want to use keeping your blinders on, keeping everything, because they all see the finished product. They don't see all the sacrifice and everything else that comes into play to get there.
Yeah, I think it's just like any other successful company or successful venture or successful team, and you've been a part of those kind of things, Greg. Is you can get into excuse me, you can get in all these coachy sayings, whether it be one we used a lot when you were here, which was white collar appearance, blue collar approach. So from the outside looking in, you want people to think, man, what a great place, what a cool uniforms and great stadium and success and all that kind of stuff. But within the program, we don't think anything about any of that stuff. It's all about today and winning each moment, become the very best version of yourself. And, you could use another analogy, kind of Brian Kane, our sports performance coach, who's been with us since 2006 now. He talks about the root of the tree versus the fruit of the tree, right? So if the roots are bad, there's never going to be any fruit. But the only reason there is success or there is fruit on the tree is because the roots of everything that you don't see underground are really strong. And that doesn't make us perfect. Our fruits certainly haven't been what we want every single year. But I do feel confident in our daily processes and what we have in place that basically allows us to hopefully reach our mission statement, which the mission statement of our program. And I did a really poor job of defining these things when you guys were here. I think our culture was good, but it wasn't clear. And the mission statement of our program is to help each and every person within the program become the very best selfless version of themselves. So if I can have Greg Holle from Albany, New York, come to TCU, and if I can create processes and systems and put people in place, coaches, academic advisors, strength coaches, nutritionists, everything to help Greg become the very best version of himself. And I'm not talking about a breaking ball. I'm not talking about a swing or how to field a ground ball. That's part of it, but it's the smallest part. If we can help Greg become the very best version of himself, and he makes the right decisions every day, has good energy, he has a good attitude, he's a good teammate, then the baseball is going to be a byproduct of that. And so really, I'm talking a lot here, but that's basically what we try to do. And if you got within our program and you were around for a day, it's not that sexy. It's just hard work. It's just, holding people accountable. As you know, I'm not afraid to do that. This is not the easiest place to play. I was just at a lunch meeting prior to this, and they were talking about Alabama football and how some of their former players have said, you're going to win. You're going to more than likely give yourself the best chance to play at the next level, but it's not the easiest place to play, and they're going to be on your rear end. And to me, and I'm a little more old school than most, why wouldn't you want that? Anything worth having in life is worth working for. And most things in life that are fruitful, you do have to go through a lot of adversity. Someone is on your rear end to push you to become the very best. So, you've lived this program. It hasn't changed that much. I've tried to become more concise with it, more clear. But it's the same thing, and it's we feel good about it, but we're constantly evolving to try to be better.
I'm gonna have to stop you because you're killing me here. You're wiping out all my questions as I move forward on the. No, man, through the rest. But I guess what I was gonna say. What do you attribute the success that you've had outside of players and players in your immediate staff? Say right now outside of Mosiello, your immediate staff. Outside of that, what do you feel? Whether it's something that happened quick or something that's like you said before has evolved. Is there anything overall that you'd feel, hey, and we go letting all your secrets out here. We want the frogs to stay on top.
No, it's just what I was just talking about. And again, there are other programs that have what I would say. Basically, what you're talking about is culture, and
sure.
And I think you said to not include the players and staff. Let's be clear. It starts with players. You could have the greatest culture in the world if you don't have talented players. and you don't hire talented people that are good at what they do and they believe what you believe and they're good people, then you have no chance. And so, but I was listening to an Urban Meyer podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's very crystal clear with his definition of a leader. And he defines it as, he says two things. A leader's job is, one, is to recruit and develop talent. Two, implement, create, maintain a culture that allows people to become the very best version of themselves. Period. End of sentence. So it's that simple, you know. And I mean, it's simply stated. It's not simply done, because you know that doesn't mean you're gonna have every day is not perfect, and it's not 70 degrees and sunny every day. So you're gonna have to, again, you just create a culture. You create. To me, I'm a big believer in structure and consistency, and I do value the players' time because they are pulled in so many different directions. I want our players, when they come to the field or when they go to the weight room, I want them so excited in knowing that we have a plan for you to get better today. And like, if it's a bullpen, if it's playing catch, if it's a practice, if it's a game, like, man, you should come up. I mean, we're just not going to throw stuff against a wall and see what happens. Like, we've planned this thing out, and it's been going on for years, right? And this is my 18th year here, and this is not because of me, but it's because of guys like yourself. The reason we went to 4 straight College World Series is because you were a part of the club that broke through to won the first regional in 2009, and then won the first regional in 2010, and got us on ESPN. And, you know, there were guys before that, you know, if Matt Perk doesn't come to TCU, who knows if we were able to get over the hump in that particular year. I think we would have eventually. Why did he come to TCU? Well, because of the guys before that. And so, you know, it's just, I feel like we have created a culture where the program belongs to the players and the program belongs to the former players, to where they feel like, you know, they're a part of this, whether they actually step foot in Omaha or not. They have been a part of it. And so, you know, you still have, but that doesn't guarantee anything. You still have to get the bounce of the ball. But I do feel like we're one of those programs. There's probably 15 to 25 a year, maybe a little more sometimes, that we have a legitimate chance to get to Omaha and win. But so many things go into that, you know? And so you were on teams that were that close. And, you know, we just want to be consistent.
Right.
There's going to be years. It's not going to look like this. There's going to be years, you know, we've had our dips, 2013 for different reasons, 2018 for different reasons. But we just want to keep putting ourselves in that position. And to do that, you have a culture that allows kids to be successful on a daily basis.
Do you think, tell me this, and I know the word luck is really, 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 you kind of create your own luck here, but you've had an unordinary, if I'm looking at it, and granted, again, I'm a little, you know, skewed with my vision and my thoughts at TCU, but if we look around, I'll use my 3 years, that's what I can speak of by itself. We had Schatz, Maisie, Whitting, you obviously, Meredith, Brandy. I can go on and on here with Dakin, Meredith, Brandy, Weedy, you know, Ross Bailey. I know you shout out to him just retiring, but with all of that, there's something to be said there, because as a program continues on, and you talk about people nipping at your heels and wanting to chase after you and wanting to knock you off, wanting to be the best, seeing what's going on. Why the hell wouldn't they go after your assistants, which I'm sure they do year after year after year. And who knows, whether it's the financial side, whether it's the like what's going on, I'm sure a combo of it all, but it just seems whatever it is now, I don't know exactly the years, but you know, I know you had Vitello for that stretch who went on, and all these guys afterwards. You look at Maisie, West Virginia, Whitting at Houston, you know, Schatz and Incarnate Word, so on and so forth. It just seems like where you're getting, you know, what you got going, whether you're hard to work for, whether guys want to admit to it, love working for you, a little combo of the Saban stuff you mentioned at Alabama. Hell, it may not be the great, but whatever it is working. And it seems like, you know, and you'd probably argue both sides, but having that around has got to be awesome rather than having this this evolving door of every year or two I'm having to recreate what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, it's not puppies. It's not puppies and ice cream around here. I mean, and with regard to my staff, if I was to add on to Urban Meyer's definition of leadership, part of my job is to give Bill Mosiello, Kirk Sarlos, Todd Whitting, Randy Mazey, Ryan Schatzberg, whomever it is, Zach Dakant, Danny Wheat in the training room, is to give them every single resource they need to be successful. That's my job. And then once they have everything they need, then you hold them accountable to the job in which they have. And that's the same for me. So if you're going to go back to what you're talking about to guys, people on our staff not leaving, and the only time they leave is for, Tony Vitello's the head coach at Tennessee, Randy Mazey at West Virginia. Well, part of that is the awesome commitment from the university that we have, right?
Sure.
So when I came to work here, my salary was $85,000 a year. And I took a pay cut from what I was going to make at UNLV. But my only thing was, and TCU wasn't committed to baseball then. They had just built this stadium, but they weren't trying to win at a super high level. And my only thing was, as we have success, I'm not going to ever ask. I have never asked for a raise for myself ever in my career, not one single time. I've asked for a raise for my coaches and my staff, but never for me. All I've ever asked is, as the program succeeds, grow with us. So whether that be some of the time you were here, it was padding the outfield wall. It was
went from the chain link in the fall, man. I remember that.
Exactly. And as my coach, as we have success, reward our coaches. So now we've gotten our program to the point where, this is no secret, so I don't mind saying it.
Yeah.
My staff is the highest paid staff in the country. If they're not one, they're two. That's not a boastful thing. They've been rewarded for what they do, but they have to continue to be held accountable to that level of work ethic, that level of, success, or at least putting us in that position. And then you throw in, so they're well compensated. And then you guys live just west of Fort Worth. Let's face it, TCU is an awesome place, right? But there's a lot of good colleges and universities in the United States. There's a lot of great places to work that are committed to baseball or sports or whatever you want to choose. There's great schools everywhere. The difference is, as good as TCU is, Fort Worth is better. You can't create this is the best place I've ever lived, and I'm not from here, and neither are you.
Right.
And so to live this lifestyle in Fort Worth, Texas, where if you're a hunter fisherman guy, you can go live that. If you're a big city guy, you can go do those things. You have access to those things, but you don't have to live in it. And we have a little bit of traffic here and there, but for the most part, in my opinion, Fort Worth lives like a city of 50,000 people, but there's over 1 million people here. And so, Kirk Sarlos, I live literally across the street from the stadium. Kirk Sarlos lives about 4 blocks away. Mo lives out in Aledo, and there isn't it's not Southern California where you got to drive an hour and a half to work and fight traffic. So the lifestyle combined with the profession, combined with the commitment from the university, I think I have the best job in the country. Just don't tell anybody that, because I don't want everybody else wanting it.
Hey, going off of that, this is gold, but stole it from you. I know we've already touched on it a bit. I try to steal a lot of stuff from you because whatever it is, it seems to be working, but
nothing's authentic.
Yeah, of course. Well, amen. That's even that. I'll use that. Nothing's authentic. Nothing's proprietary. You take bits and pieces of all of it, whether it's pro ball, college. You find guys that, whether it's on the mound, crap that works for you may not work for everyone, but if it works for you and you know how to relay it, amen. Just preach and buy-in, right? I know you went through your mission statement, the core values, the Urban Meyer thing. That has been buy-in for us. When I'm trying to, granted, I'm relaying it to kids, but it's all relative, right? To what level, maybe a little different. Reach buy-in, made it a core value. Again, stole it from you. I want to, combine these two here. Elaborate on the difference between culture and buy-in, and if they're separate, one and the same. Because let's do that first before I go off and lose you.
Man, what an awesome question. And over COVID, I've probably done 15 to 20 of these podcast type things. And normally they want to talk about organizational structure, culture, that kind of thing. So culture and buy-in. I would say that the first thing you have to do is you have to be very, very clear in what you want the culture to be. And that's both the job of the leader to help define that. But I think you have to, I don't know your employee structure, but let's just use, how did our culture really come about here? I'll tell you that story first. And that's, I thought we had a culture when you were here, and I think we did. And we had rules, that's for sure. We had processes for how we did things. But if I was to say to Greg Holle, hey, what does it mean to be a baseball player at TCU? You would have said this, and you would have said this, and it would have been good. And if I would have asked Brian Holiday, your catcher on that team, what's it mean to play at TCU? He would have said this, he would have said this, and he would have said this, and it would have been good. But they would not have been the same. They would have been great stuff, but not consistent. And so in 2013 or 14, I think it was, Brian Kane came in and he said, if I was to ask one of your players or one of your former players, what does it mean to play baseball at TCU? What's your culture? What do you think they'll say? And I said, being the idiot that I am, that, well, they better say this, and they better say this, and they better say that. And he said, well, let's find out. So we went in our classroom, which we have this cool classroom, and they all wrote down on the piece of paper, what it meant to them. And we put it all on the board. And it was like 70 different things. And they were all great, but they weren't clear. They weren't concise. They weren't consistent. And so I took all of that with my own opinion. And so the players, in other words, the employees within the program, the people within the program had a voice in creating the culture and what we were going to stand for. And that's where our 3 core values came from: selfless, excellence, and energy. Sounds super coachy, sounds something like something you could throw on a wall, throw on a t-shirt, but that's not what that is. I mean, you have to define those things. And what we define them, selfless is basically defined as, this life is not about you. It's about what you can do for other people. Excellence is become the very best version of yourself in all areas of your life every day. Energy is, I can control my attitude and effort, period. Those 3 things, right? And so if you were to go to one of our players since that day and ask them that question, I will literally stand naked on Interstate 30 if they don't say that. Like I promise you they will say that.
I hope for the sake of everyone driving by.
Yeah. So anyway, the first thing you got to do is define it, because it's hard to buy into something that you don't even know you don't know what the standards are. You don't know what the boundaries are on what is acceptable, what is not. How are we going to do things? Culture is a way of life. How are we going to live this thing as a TCU baseball player, as an employee at Google, as a football player at Alabama? So then once you do that, then you set the standard. Here's what we're about. Here's what behaviors fall in line with what we do. And then you simply hold players accountable. You hold them accountable to what, and then and that's not going to happen in a day. That takes time, but it takes consistency. And eventually you get it to the point where, like we have it now, where like this particular team we have this year, I have 8 seniors. 5 of the 8 are in their 6th year of college. 3 and the remaining 3 are in their 5th year of college, because everybody got an extra year of eligibility from last year. Your team was one of the first, probably the first in 2010, was the first what we would call player-led, right? Coach-fed, player-led program. I mean, team, right? Brian Holiday and a few other guys, but mainly Holiday, tell me if I'm wrong, he ran that team.
Sure.
He ran it. To the point, I tell people a story all the time. There was, I don't remember when it was, but I was acting like an idiot sometime after a game or something like that. And I remember Brian came to me the next day and he said, "Hey, you need to shut up. Just let me handle this. I got it." And I was like, awesome. On this particular team, I don't know if we'll win a game, but we have like 6 of those guys. They've been here for so long. And eventually that's what you want when you're talking about buy-in is you have the best discipline is self-discipline. The best motivation is self-motivation. So you create a culture to where the problem that eventually gets to my desk is big. The little stuff, now I obviously have my eye out for that stuff all the time, but Halen Green takes care of that. Charles King takes care of that. Zach Humphreys takes care of that. Those are, upperclassmen, seniors on our team. And so they help with that buy-in. And then once you've got, then the buy-in simply is, I'll this is a long answer, I'm sorry, but Urban Meyer, if you Google 10-80-10, right? It's an organizational theory that within your organization, within your team, 10% of the people in your organization are all in. Like they're as bought in as they can possibly be. They're everything you want to be. You have a bottom 10% that is disinterested, disgruntled, lazy. You're not changing that. Like that's who they are. Everybody else is 80% of your organization is in the middle. They're good. They show up on time. They're probably, some of them may do a little extra work, but they're certainly not in the top 10%, right? So 10-80-10. As a leader, and I've learned the hard way on this, as a leader, my job and those guys who are in that top 10%, my job is not to coach the 10% guys. And at the top, my job is definitely, and this is where I've failed, because I do have a heart for kids, is my job is really not to take the bottom 10%. I mean, give them a little bit of time, but it's when you have one of those kids and you've been on teams where you have that one or two guy and you spend 80% as a coach or a leader, you spend 80% of your time on the one guy who's in the bottom 10%, when what you need to be doing is taking the 80%ers to the 10 and to the top 10. Sure. And so, again, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. But
no, you absolutely are. And I think, Summer, tell me this, if you talk about how sports relate to the world, what we're living in right now, like it, love it, hate it. It's you're going to have the extreme on one side, the extreme there, where the hell everything else falls. But it sounds like too, with your upperclassmen, if you use Holiday, for example, whatever examples you want to use, a lot of that stuff, when the culture is instilled, polices itself. The stuff takes care of it. I know what Schloss wants. I know what Mo wants. I know what Sarloos wants. I know what all these guys want. Dakin, stuff in the weight room. If you got to go and micromanage everything, especially with the level of athletes and coaches you have, it's exactly what you're talking about, which leads me to my next thing here. No one enjoys being a robot. And this is another thing. I'm doing a lot of stuff, right? I can tie these into what I'm trying to preach. I want to make sure all the stuff's on, but you tell me here. No one enjoys being a robot. Freedom is a key. Would you say that's fair?
For sure.
How important is having a framework built, right? When you're creating the culture and you're creating that, you're wanting to get the buy-in from your players, for them to work within that framework while still having, right? Why did think about it? Why did you bring on Mosiello? Why did you bring on Sarloos? Why did you recruit certain guys? If they're so constricted or restricted by what they have to do, the whole reason you set out to go after them, to recruit them, to bring them on, it's no longer allowed to shine through.
Sure. Yeah. And that's something that I've had to evolve with over time. But you have to have pillars, like, and I compare it to, somebody did this to me the other day. You compare it to a car. So every car since the history of cars has had what? 4 wheels and a steering wheel. Ever since then, no car ever has been the same, but they've all had 4 wheels and a steering wheel, right? Mm-hmm. So for us, I'm never sacrificing the things that I believe in as long as I'm in charge of the baseball program at TCU. I'm never sacrificing selflessness, excellence, and energy. I'm never going to sacrifice how hard we play or the things that I think as the leader lead to success. However, within that structure, I have definitely come 1,000 miles in terms of as long as you're good, as long as you're living your life within that, I don't care. I really don't care how you do it. Right. So for example, with my assistant coaches, when Bill Mosiello leaves here, he's going to take things from here that he really likes. And I'm sure there's things that he say, you know what, I probably won't do it that way. That's fine. But while you're here, we have to preach the same language. We have to believe in the same gospel. I'm not in the weight room very much. So Zach Dakin has as much impact. He has more impact on our players than I do because he's around them every day. If he doesn't believe in attention to detail and consistent energy, attitude, and effort, then that's going to show up on the baseball field. But within the framework, you have to, and I've had to learn that. Look at me, I have facial hair. I've never, ever in my life until COVID had like a beard. And that's, is that a big deal? I've always been, now what I do, what I've changed to, and I don't know if we did this when you were here, but
you got a 3.0 in the fall.
I make everybody be clean shaven in the fall every single day. Not the coaches. They're adults. I'm the players. Okay. And why do we do that? We do that because as you know now, as a husband, you have a job, you probably have a mortgage, you're a dad. To become an adult, you have to learn to do things that you don't want to do. People don't want to make their bed. People don't want to. There's a lot of kids that don't want to shave every day. But to be a responsible citizen, you're always going to have a boss, so you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. So what we do is they have to be clean shaven every day, and then if the team gets a 3.0 GPA at the end of the fall, then during the season you can have some facial hair, right? So that's a really small thing. But if you came to our players now and talked to them about playing in the program and playing for me as the head coach versus when you were here, you would be like, wait, what? He's allowing that?
That's what I've heard, man. I'm like, good God, is Schloss getting soft on me?
Yeah. And what you learn is, well, here's my thing. Can I trust you enough to give you that freedom? Can I trust you enough? And there's nothing worse than having a spouse you can't trust. There's nothing worse than having an employee you can't trust, a boss you can't trust. There's nothing worse than having a team you can't trust. So if I'm going to back off on some of the things that I need to back off on, can I trust you that you're not going to take a mile when I'm trying to give you an inch, And so I've just, gotten to that point. And then you also go, listen, is it really that big of a deal? Does this really affect winning and losing by letting them have a mustache? It doesn't. So yeah, there has to be freedom within that.
Plus, you figure with some of the god-awful facial hair of these guys, if you're worried about them running around, staying out late, or being with girls, sometimes that'll be the deterrent that'll take care of that in one in itself, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Hey, I want to keep an eye on this, and we're actually staying moving, pretty darn well. And it really does. It makes me feel old looking at the stuff. We're sitting here talking about 2010, year ended up going to the College World Series with y'all, getting drafted, so on and so forth. Here we are. We're going into the 11th year away from that, which is absolutely insane. Makes me feel like this old crusty thing reminiscing. But when you look at it, obviously, I don't care what you say, and I'm going to let people in on some stuff. There's levels of superstition that you have, right? And I go through and I look at it. And how much do you feel that the consistency in the day-to-day life, what you demand to your guys, what you demand to yourself, certain things you want to do, as you mentioned before. Some guys don't want to shave. You don't want to make your bed. I know Maisie was big on that example he beat into the ground. But you look at it, the excellence you demanded, if I go through it, study hall with Judy. We've talked about Kane several times on the mental side, Dakin, the administrative side. You had a guy who was just happened to retire the other day, and Ross Bailey, who was around, he was around forever, far before you. Hofbrau midweek, Olive Garden, we're knocking that stuff out. The chicken con broccoli, they got rid of that. Olive Garden, bring it back. On the Amy Goodson side, you look at it, everything that you mentioned, right? That's the support of the university. It's the buy-in of the university, right? Putting you in a spot to be able to do that, to be able to bring these guys on. And it's just, I think what I'm getting at with that, how much of the detail stuff, how much when there's all this success, all this crap starts getting thrown at you and noise and stuff that's surrounding it, how difficult, even when we're sitting here talking about you, people are watching this, is it to actually follow through on getting rid of that, staying focused? You've been to the College World Series 5 times now. I don't know how many schools have done it, not many, but how difficult is it to just stay on it no matter what? Yeah, we're damn good. We got a lot of really, really good players, our coaching staff. So how tough is it to actually live that?
Well, I don't think it's very tough at all, because when you know, we've had really good seasons, and we've had some bad ones. And the thing is control what you can control. Like, people will call it superstition, right? A superstition is something that if it doesn't happen that way, like if you don't eat your apple in the 4th inning, then you just know, like, your mind falls apart. Which I don't believe in. I don't believe in superstition. What I believe in is routine. And so in our particular sport, and especially life in general, there are so many things you cannot control, right? Those things are like the bounce of the ball, the call of the umpire, the wind, what our opponent does. There are so many things you can't control. We can't worry about that. I can't worry what the fans think. I can't worry about what the administration thinks. I can only control, the limited things that I can control the pregame meal. I can control the consistency of our routines, right? Now, those can't be superstitions, because, as you know, in baseball, it rains. So we're not going to get to hit on the field today, or we're pushed back an hour, or we walk into Hofbrau and the food's not ready on time, or, just whatever it is. So you can't become a slave to it. But I believe that when you create your life, our season is going to be a sum. It's going to be the sum of our choices. Your choices create your behavior. Your behavior creates your routines, right? So what I want for our players is consistency. Just keep doing what we do. Keep doing what we do. And I think it's in the Navy SEALs where they say, there is no such thing as rising to the occasion. You sink to your level of preparation, right? If you have to step up, I hate coaches that use that. Hey, you really stepped up today, or we stepped up. If you have to step up, what in the heck were you doing all the rest of the time, right? So when we get in these super regionals, or we get into Omaha, or we get on a big game, what people would say is a big game, and you can just feel guys are thinking like that, all you do is say, hey, man, we just do what we do. Lunch is at this day. We're going to have pregame meal. And yeah, Olive Garden got freaking, I know guys will never eat at Olive Garden the rest of their life because of how much Olive Garden you guys ate, but it was consistent, right? So you knew that part of your life was taken care of, and you could just focus on being prepared to execute the next pitch. And so I believe in that. I think that's especially in the sport of baseball, in my opinion, that's the best way for me to structure it, so that our players can be tuned in to the other stuff and not have to worry about the external.
As we wind this down here with respect to the old meeting we got coming up here, I'm getting hammered with comments on stuff. What I want to hit, okay? I tried to stay away, as I mentioned when we talked before. I didn't want to do the stuff of, how's technology in baseball? The nerds taking that's. I don't know. I'm sick of talking about that. I'm sick of talking about all this other stuff. But one of the things I do want to touch on, because I feel like it's important, the perception in the recruiting world, right? The fear, I guess you get played into sales too, right? Everyone's close out. The fear of being left out. Now there's this fear that if someone isn't signed by the time they're a sophomore, or not signed, let me back that up. That can't happen ever. Committed. The old commitment thing where they're posting all the schools in the world going after them. And hey, I'm happy to be going here. Happy to be going here. And I realize it's part of it. It's the competitive side, but just where it goes with players developing at different times, needs within a school, within a program, and then just all of the other things that play into it. It's not, I guess, elaborate on just the fact that, yeah, it happens. You find your for sures, right? How does that play into y'all? Because then on top of it, some of those guys that may be committing at those times, hell, they may never walk a step on campus. And I know darn well you've lost guys to the draft in the past. Yeah.
Well, first of all, we can go about 5 or 6 more minutes.
Yeah.
If you want to about, I don't know if this is live, right? So 150, I can go to then. So this recruiting thing, it's awful. I hate it. In my position that I've been doing this for a while, and I'm a part of all these boards, NCAA, and we've tried like crazy to create some boundaries to try and slow it down. And it's kind of one of those deals. I mean, that horse has left the gate, it's gone. And I don't know that we'll ever circle it back as much as we would like. But my advice, recruiting, I mean, it's not an exact science, and you said something about there is no sure thing. There is no sure thing. We've committed guys that I was like, there's no question this guy's going to play for us as a freshman, and he never sees the field, right? Or, whatever. So, my advice to people regarding this recruiting thing is number one, understand that college baseball is the most underfunded sport in all of college athletics, and it's not close in terms of scholarship money. So be careful where you spend your money. If you're going to invest $40,000 over the course of somebody's 8 years old to 17, and you're probably investing it for about a $10,000 baseball scholarship. So just understand the math. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, unfortunately, as a parent, you want them to make the decision, but you're the adult. So you get to control this. If you don't want your child making a decision that is literally going to affect the next 50 to 60 years of his adult life, right? His degree, look at you. You come from Albany, New York, and meet a pretty blonde, and now you're living in freaking west of Fort Worth, Texas. I mean, pretty darn big decision for you to come to TCU, right? And so I think what you do is, when you feel that pressure, which I understand that's very valid, is you think about, okay, what's important to me? What are we looking for? Ask this kid and talk to him about, big school, small school, what close to home, far from home. And it's hard to figure out what you want to major in when you're 15 or 14. I mean, it's just the dumbest thing ever. But if the family and the kid does enough research and they find something that, man, this is really a fit, then okay, have at it. And just understand that you're 2.5 or 3 years away from even being in that program, right? Like, I've had a mother of a sophomore in high school one time ask me, well, how many infielders do you need in the 20 whatever class, and where do you see him playing? And I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, I don't know who's playing shortstop tomorrow, much less 4 years from now. So what are we looking for? We're looking for athletic players, right, that have upside, that can play multiple positions, that, at least for us, that play multiple sports. We prefer that. It's not a requirement, but we prefer athletes that play multiple sports. That's we could do a whole nother podcast on that. And then obviously good students from good families that have, makeup. But even that's hard to evaluate. Who you are at 14 and who you're going to be at 18, can go. You can be really great. It goes the opposite way. And you can be, super immature who eventually creates all these good habits. So I would not, as a parent, number one, if your son's not being recruited at this time for some reason, do not panic. Talent always wins. Always. So there's never going to be a great player in the Fort Worth area that TCU is not going to want, period. I don't care how old he is, right? And so, because everything changes so much, kids don't evolve into the player that the school thinks he's going to become. And then there's a conversation that sends that player another direction. Kids change their mind. They commit to one school, and in their senior year, they say, you know what? I don't want to go that far away from home, or I don't want to go that close to home. And they change their mind. And then we have the major league draft. So there's so many variables that go into it. As a parent, knowing what I know, I understand the pressure, but I would not panic in any way. Focus again on what you can control. Get better every day. Hold your kid accountable to how he does his homework. Hold him accountable to how he behaves away from the field. Hold him accountable to how his improvement in all sports. And if you just do that, control what you can control, everything else will take care of itself.
Because I feel like, and again, I'm definitely gonna, we'll go and let you out of here. And I feel like that was awesome. One of the things that when we have these conversations, we're going through the recruiting process with our guys right now, is just the thing what you're talking about. If you're doing all of this banking on coming out of it, man, debt free, or that's insanely rare. And then one step further than that, What if we went in with the mindset of, if baseball ends up being something where you immediately show up to campus, you have a support staff, enormous. I can speak of it. Hell, we already touched on the part of being from upstate New York. Going further, how about the people you meet, the donors, or donors, support, whoever that you're just surrounded by, that you see on a day-to-day basis with first pitch banquets, so on and so forth. Let's get past it. If you get a chance to play professionally, you get a chance to play for years and years and years and make millions. Awesome. Guess what? By going to school, what if baseball is what created the platform for you to be able to meet people, to network, that are going to end up, whether it's you immediately or you in the immediate, or you being helped out or somehow getting involved with them from a networking standpoint that could potentially be an employer down the road beyond this 40-year baseball career?
Well, first of all, my meeting got pushed to 2:30, so we got more time.
Hell yeah, we're not going anywhere.
I'm loving this. So here's the deal. Best way I can present it to parents and everybody out there. So I have a assistant coach on my team named Kirk Sarlos, who pitched in the big leagues for about 7 years. Okay. Ask your kids, would you take the average career in the big leagues is probably what? A year and a half, 2 years, no more than 3. So he pitched double. How many kids would raise their hand and say, Greg Holle, would you have taken a 7-year big league career? Right. Not talking, money aside, pitching the big league 7 years for sure. Right. So he finished playing at 30, which sounds incredibly old to the kids in your program. But as your parents know, it's incredibly young. The bottom line is this: even Mike Trout is going to more than likely spend way more of his life not as a baseball player than he is as a baseball player, right? That's true for you. That was true for me. That's going to be true for the 99.98% of baseball players. So with that in mind, what you do is you chase 2 dreams. I want our players to chase being a big leaguer. I have no problem with that. If that's what gets you to wake up every morning and make the right choices, along with being a good teammate and stuff like that, have at it. That's awesome. We're all only going to benefit from that motivation. But also what you do is you chase the other side. So you chase being a teacher. You chase owning your own business. You chase being a plumber. I don't care what it is, but you chase those 2 things at the same time. And then, as you know, in professional baseball, what happens is, because, in college, you can do both at the same time. In professional baseball, the baseball goes like this. And that's why I am always on our current minor league players. I'm always asking them, hey, what are they telling you? Because you got to remember this, and you can attest to this. Every year you're in minor league baseball, you are 1 year behind your graduating class in what they're doing. So the guy who wasn't as good a pitcher as you, what's he doing? He's graduated. He maybe got his master's degree. He's climbing his business model. And here's what happens. And parents, you really need to hear this, is that one of my favorite things to do, and I attended yours, is to go to ex-player weddings. I love it. They all get married in November and December during the minor league off season. I love going. Why? Because they get to see 10 to 20 to 30 former players. And over 30 years of doing this, do you know what the overwhelming theme is? It's not 100% true, but it's the overwhelming theme. The better the player in college, the further behind in life that he is. Think about that. The better the player, the more successful player in college, versus the guy who just didn't play professional baseball, or maybe just played a year or 2 and got out and finished his degree, if he hadn't finished it, and got into with the workforce and started climbing that ladder, the further behind in life he is. So that's, think about that. And so the president and general manager, 4-time both American and National League Executive of the Year, just won a World Series. The president and GM of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Andrew Friedman, was our bullpen catcher at Tulane. Think about that. And we have all these guys that played at Tulane while he was around that were first rounders, and a couple had a cup of coffee in the big leagues and had signing bonuses and stuff like that. But they've all come back to him looking for a job. So I'm not saying you can't chase baseball, but what you do is you use the baseball as an avenue to do exactly what you said, have all these awesome life experiences, get an education, right? And then see how it plays out. But if you start just doing the one and your mindset is just that, and the parent is, all my eggs are over here, you are setting your child up for immense disappointment and more than likely failure.
Might say the hell with the parent meeting this year, man, and just hit play on what you and I are talking about, because it's awesome having this, because it always same reason when former players used to come in and you let them talk to us. It's just hearing it from a different voice or someone that they've seen or it's on TV, whatever. I'll speak of it. I want to say first year we went to the regional, it was Nolan Ryan, right? He spoke to is that what that was? It was, right? I remember that the first year when we hosted it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. And then afterwards, and it was one of those ones where I ended up chasing them down or hunting them down. And you realize it's very, very, very similar. It's one of the first things you said. None of it is, really unique to you specifically or him specifically. I know when it was up there, when I want to say the MC was, he going through it, 7 no-hitters and 5 million 2-hitters and all that stuff. And he got up and it was one of those ones where, he had an incredible ability, or God-given ability on the mound, and durability wise, be able to pitch that long. But outside of that, and especially you, with how long you've been doing it, how many teams and players that you've had, there's really not, granted, baseball players seem to have a kind of a unique personality in its own right, but there's really not a whole lot where a player X, use Arrieta for example, awesome dude, really just good guy, had a whole hell of a lot of talent, work ethic through the roof, and everything that's there.
Well, here's the thing. Let me comment on something that I think is important for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
And you, Jake, when you said Jake's name, it made me think of it. Is one of the things we believe in our program, and part of our culture, is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So please listen to this. I've never in 30 years, assistant coach, head coach, I've never, ever, ever had a player who's an underachieving student and an overachieving player. Think about that. I didn't say bad student. I said underachieving. So let's say if Greg Holle is capable of being a 3-4 student and he's consistently a 2-4 student, that's a problem. He's underachieving. If he's capable of being a 3-4 student and he's making 3 2s and 3 3s and he has a semester that he makes a 2-4, no big deal. We'll dive in. Hey, why did that happen? We'll figure it out. But if he's underachieving, why is he underachieving? It's because he's probably not going to class he's not there. He's lazy. He's not on time. He's not paying attention when he's there. He's not doing his homework. He's not turning it in on time, right? Do you think that those habits don't transfer to a baseball field? They 100% do. Here's the problem in the young ages is you can be underachieving. You can be bad habits, but when you're 12, you might just be bigger and stronger than everybody else. So you're succeeding on the baseball field. If mom and dad don't recognize that, then what happens is eventually everybody else catches up to freaking Big Johnny, who's gotten bigger. And now they go flying by him because his work habits suck. His character isn't good. And when the talent level is, when you come to a TCU baseball game, I don't care if it's on Tuesday night against UTA or in the College World Series, the talent, like the line between winning and losing is like this. And so other than the bounce of the ball, what is going to separate you? It's going to be that stuff. It's going to be those things. I mean, the Matt Carpenter story is the greatest example. In our first recruiting class, hugely recruited player, can't believe he chose TCU, comes to TCU, and for 2.5 years, he's an underachiever away from the field. And he ended up, he was a decent player for us, but he wasn't a great player. And then this injury happened. He had Tommy John surgery as a position player. And he sat not in this office, but the one down the hall, him and his parents. And I said, listen, man, I've been telling you for 2.5 years to clean your act up off the baseball field. Otherwise, it's never going to work out here. And to his credit, the next day, completely different human being. That's when you came on and you got to play with him on the back end of that. And he changed his life away from the field, and which doesn't guarantee you anything. It just gives you the best chance. And he ended up signing for $1,000 in the 13th round after the 2009 season. And a year and a half later, he's in the big leagues. He's made 3 all-star teams. You know, he's got a great contract, got a great wife, 2 great kids. But I mean, when you said Arrieta, the thing about Jake is in the spring of his junior year, when we all knew he was going to be a very high draft pick. He was on everybody's draft board in the first round, Scott Boras' client. Jake Arrieta made his best GPA ever at TCU in the spring of his junior year, when he was a 3.6 student in the spring, when everybody would have said, hey man, why are you even bothering with that? Because you're going to sign for $1 million in a month. That tells you about his level of excellence and his commitment to being the best in every single thing that he does. So for the parents, hold your kids accountable to every single thing. Let them have a good time on the baseball field. It doesn't matter if they're 0 for 4 or 2 for 4. It only matters if they're showing up on time and doing all the things they're supposed to do. And we're about to have like an emergency test run here, so you might have to deal with that.
It's all good, man. Not a problem at all. How much of that, all right, not the emergency that you're running and everything there, but advice, right? Since we're going, we're shifting to the parent side a little bit, but it's more as I'm trying to shape this, and I don't use my hands a lot for some reason. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But as we look at this, where do you go? Who do you look to for doing exactly what you're talking about? And you're probably like, well, okay, Greg, what are you talking about? You got Big Johnny, right? Big Johnny's our man here. He's our example we're using. You get around anyone, right? You surround yourself with bigger kids at a young age. You're going to have success. Doesn't mean you're learning anything. Doesn't mean you're putting yourself in a spot to continue to grow. Do you say, look ahead, look who's running it, look at the guys that are around you, what you're talking about from a recruiting side for, let's use TCU. If you have every asset in place for kids to succeed, for kids to grow, whether it's facilities, coaches, equipment, whatever it is, you name it. At what point do you look past the immediate of, oh man, we don't need that, but you're in the right spot to grow. Where you are right now, it's all easier for you to sit there and talk to your guys and tell your guys. But when you first got rolling and you weren't the TCU that we're looking at now, it's a whole hell of a lot more. It's more difficult for the buy-in of what we're talking about, because success is easy to follow. Oh man, look at it here. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're winning. I'm sure you're recruiting stuff now. Why wouldn't you? You're riding it. We're going here, going here, going here. You want to win. TCU's the spot. But prior to getting to that, God, you guys, you have to buy in. You're the same. Yeah, you've evolved, but you're the same person, right? That you were upon getting hired.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I mean, we were definitely selling at the time. We were selling, a dream. When we were recruiting against University of Texas, who had been to Omaha, 9,384 times, and we hadn't been one time. The thing was, like it was with you, or like it was with Carp, was, hey man, do you want to be next or do you want to be first? That was what we were selling. And then, I think you just have to be you have to be a salesman on, hey, here are the things just like you said, here are the things we have in place to help you become the very best version of yourself. That's all you, Greg Holle, running your program, me, Jim Schlossnagle, running our program. That's all I can do. I can't control what they decide to do. If they decide to leave, if they think they're not happy here, whatever. I was trying to think the other day, because we probably have a new transfer rule coming in. I can't remember a transfer, maybe one, in my time at TCU. I can name one, which I won't, but I can name one guy who left here that was an impact player somewhere else. Everybody else who gave up, and I'm not saying that's because TCU is some awesome spot. What I'm saying is that everybody who gave up and just said, you know what, this is too tough, I don't want to compete for the job, he's too hard on me, whatever it is, they go somewhere else. And what you realize is, if you want to go somewhere and be a part of something special, they're holding you accountable too. And it's just as tough. And if it's not, you don't become the best version of yourself. And you just kind of peter off, and no one ever hears from you again. So I don't know if that's the subject you're talking about, but I think if I'm a parent and my son, and I can realistically, which is really hard to do, step back and say, I can see him getting better. I can see him being held accountable. I know he's not the starting shortstop. Of course, we all want him to be the starting shortstop, but he's getting better as a player. He's being held accountable on and off the field. Then, I think, he's in the right spot.
Because I think piggybacking off of that, and they're telling me over here to the side, we got a couple minutes left, but the great equalizer, right? I don't know. I'm telling you, I'm in the worst shape I've been in. Nonetheless, we'll get that back and rolling. But what I was going to say is along those lines is the mirror is the great equalizer, right? You can go somewhere, you can bounce around. I could flip you a different uniform. I can go and we can try to mask what's there, or let me say this: surround you, so to speak, with better players at the time, or put you in spots to have. You're not addressing the problem, right? You're masking it, and it's like whack-a-mole. You're going to the arcade, you're hitting it here, it's popping up. It's not, unless you address it directly or just own up to it, it's always going to be a whole hell of a lot easier to point fingers than it is look in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, the best trait of any great player that I've ever coached, one of the best traits, there are actually two. One, conscientiousness is one. Two is being self-aware. So the best players, the best coaches I've been around, they're so self-aware. They see, and humility, right? There's a great book called Legacy. It's about the New Zealand rugby team called the All Blacks. And I encourage every parent to read it. And it's about, basically, it talks about their humility. The only way that you can truly become the best version of yourself is have the humility to look in the mirror and know that you're not. So you're self-aware of, wow, I'm pretty good at this, but I'm not really good at this. And right? First of all, there are no perfect people. There's been one perfect person on the history of the planet, and they nailed him to a cross. So there were everybody before him, everybody after him has been imperfect. And so is your son, and so is my son and my daughter, right? So when you're self-aware enough and you're humble enough to look in the mirror and say, I'm cheating myself in this area, or I can be better in this area. When you can do that, and then you start attacking those things, then you just worry about becoming the best version of yourself, knowing you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. We're all sinful. But once you do that, then that person, that player is going to fall where they need to fall. And if you're constantly chasing the easiest way, the way that doesn't have failure involved, then they're never going to grow up. Failure or obstacles. There's another great book by my friend Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way, right? I mean, anything that's ever been great in the world that has been accomplished was usually the result of something negative. You had to overcome it. It was the best thing that ever happened to you, right? We can all look back on our lives that way. So it's just hard as a parent, and I get it. It's hard as a parent to help your child, and for you even to look at your child in that mode, but you really got to try to do it.
Amen to that, man. I can't think of a better place to cut this off as we're getting going here, and it's I don't know. I can't thank you enough. I think going through this and just getting away. No one on the planet wants to talk about COVID anymore. They don't want to talk about wearing masks. That's the horse that's been beaten to the point, I think, of to a pulp. But I love to have you on again at some point. I know you guys are getting ready to get the season cranked up. Can't wish you guys, wish you all enough luck. If I ever get a minute, when I get away from baseball all day, every day, nothing better than surround yourself with some more. But I always love getting around, watch what you have going on, admiring the hell out of it, trying to continue to take bits and pieces from you, from the 3 years that I was with you, and then obviously staying in touch after that. But I can't thank you enough taking the time. Glad that meeting got pushed back. I feel like the people watching got a little extra on top, man. But thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And as you know, I don't have very many hobbies, so I don't play golf. I like to fish a little bit, not much during the season, but I'm around, so would love to do it again and invite everybody out there involved in your program and on this call, whoever watches it, come out to the ballpark. Come by practice once we're allowed to have people here. Our practices for the most part are open, and would love to visit with you and appreciate you, Greg. You've been super proud of all you've accomplished, and you're way over your skis and your marriage. That just means you're a great recruiter, and love you to death, buddy. Go Frogs.
What do they say? It's sometimes better lucky than whatever the old saying is. But absolutely, I'll keep the try to keep the staying over my skis, and we'll keep that there. And man, again, thanks again, and again, go Frogs.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You got it. You too. Guys, Jim Schlossnagle, that was absolute gold. Gold is the word. That's what you heard, okay? The comments, everyone's rolling in here. He gets on a roll. It is incredible to be able to bring someone on like that. Fortunate as can be. That's him. We were laughing about. He's a little more animated in our time we were there, but it's just stuff that evolves, stuff that gets going. And as you continue on, the processes, the culture that you create, the buy-in, right? I know it's the common theme here. The buy-in that you're able to get from your players, you got to stay consistent with it. No one person's going to do it. So, it's the sum of all, all the parts, but you're talking a guy who has it buttoned up, who's walk the walk, you name it. And the success has followed. I look forward to having him on, again, in the near future. I know he's getting rolling at a Big 12 meeting prior, but the season's getting here. The Frogs are coming at you. And you know what else is coming at you is the termites and everything else that's coming around your house. If you don't call Robbie Tucker at Chemtech Pest Control, 817-489-5500. The man gets it done. He comes in. He's got his pet-friendly sprayer. Going to knock it down. He's a bee and ant specialist, roach specialist. Get everything knocked out. Give Robbie Tucker a call at Chemtech. I actually got a call from his daughter. He's coming out to the facility. I want to say tomorrow or next week, if you guys want to come out and see him in action. 817-489-5500. Perry Lunsford, the healthy insurance dude. Give him a call, 817-205-6257. Navigating health insurance is brutal. Okay, everyone knows that. If you're self-employed, it's god awful. Who knows where it's heading? To each his own there. Well-versed, knows what's going on. You can lock in a rate. He gets you hooked up. He's got my wife, my daughter, myself. I tried to throw my puppy on it. It's only humans, but hey, he'll give it a whirl for you. If you want the best deal possible, if you want knowledge, if you want everything by your side, give Perry Lunsford, the healthy insurance dude, a call, 817-205-6257. We talked about, I appreciate the shout out, Slosh. I'll let her know. I'm sure she's watching this. As far as, weighing over my skis with my wife, Kristen Holly Realty, 817-808-9464. Whether it's contracts, negotiating, whether you're on the buying side, the selling side, investment property. If you're looking into that, we got it. Give her a call. Doesn't hurt. There's nothing tied to it. 817-808-9464. You never go into a gunfight with a knife. Don't go into any real estate deal without Kristen Holly by your side. 817-808-9464. I'm tidying it up here. I got 2 minutes left. We're going to wrap this bad boy up. Thanks again to 4 million time coach of the year and whatever conference he's in at the time. The face of TCU baseball, the all-time winningest coach in TCU baseball, Jim Schlossnagle. It's absolutely all the time I got for y'all this week. We're here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time. All righty. We're here at 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to get with y'all. I'm ironing out our guest for next week. Can't promise it'll be as good as Schloss, but it'll be pretty darn close, I promise you. My name is Greg Holle. God bless. our law enforcement. God bless the greatest state known to man, the United States of America. God bless our first responders. That's all the time we got. You were watching the Greg Holle Show. Good night from Fort Worth, Texas.
He said, is this really where you've been for the last few days? Hell yeah, it is. Is that all you gotta say?